Guys, do you know what happens right before foreclosures begin? What happens is first people stop paying their mortgages and then we have delinquencies. But why do people stop paying? Mostly because they're what they call underwater. What it means is that your mortgage amount is more than the value. Right now we are at Urfer Family Park and I've been wanting to go to this area right here. It has been closed for repairs for way too freaking long. So this is where we're going to record today. So one of our great metrics companies, which is called Adam, did a report just recently. And what they revealed is what percentage of mortgages are seriously delinquent. What it means is that their mortgage is 25% or more than the value of their home. And what they found is actually interesting. Almost all of them are in the South. 9 out of 10 of the areas where they have the largest amount seriously underwater mortgages are in the South. Now that does not mean that these people are not paying and that these are places where people are defaulting. All it means is that their home is worth less than their mortgage amount, which is a precursor to people not paying, and then eventually they'll go into foreclosure. Now on a national level, out of every single mortgage out there, 2.7% of them are seriously underwater. Holy cow, I see why this place is closed off now. Look at this. This place is charred. Looks like there was a fire there. That's really unfortunate. But I don't know why the county hasn't built it up again, because this has literally been like 2-3 years. I've never been in this area of Urfer Park because they closed it off not long after it opened. And you know, if you're one of these homeowners that has a home that is underwater, you don't have many options. Like, you can continue paying your mortgage, yes, but if you start falling behind, then the bank is not going to take your property from you. There is a thing called deed in lieu of foreclosure, but I haven't heard any banks doing this these days. Really, what your option is a short sale, where you kind of sell it for less than the mortgage amount, and then let's just say you sell it for $50,000 less than your mortgage amount. Well, if the bank approves that sale, then you end up getting a 1099 or a 1098 for quote-unquote earning $50,000, which is a complete ripoff if you ask me. You have to pay taxes on that, and that's, you know, whatever, $15,000, $20,000 depending on your tax bracket. I think it's crazy. So on a state level, Kentucky took the lead. Out of all their mortgages, 8.3% are seriously underwater. Now West Virginia, that one is second in line, and they're at 5.4% of all the seriously underwater mortgages. Now, statewide, there's a couple more states that they mention, for example, Oklahoma and Arkansas, 6.1 and 5.7% respectively. Now, when it comes to a metropolitan area, not a state, Baton Rouge took the lead in Louisiana. This is unbelievable. Out of every single mortgage in Baton Rouge, every mortgage for every condo, every home, everything, 13.4% of all mortgages are seriously underwater. Remember, seriously underwater means that they owe more than 25% more than the current value of their home. It sounds to me like all these areas had big price declines. Either that or lenders were somehow appraising way too high, and I don't know why that would happen. Now, I think that this is absolutely crazy that there are so many places with such a large percentage of homes being underwater. But do you think that this is going to continue increasing? And then even if it does, are people going to stop paying their 3% mortgage rate or 4% mortgage rate just because they're underwater? You know, I think there is a big opportunity here. The opportunity lies for sub 2. If you're a sub 2 student with Pace Morby, you know what I'm talking about. But basically, here's the bottom line. If you want to buy a home and you can't afford it, right? You can't qualify, or maybe it can't be sold because the home is underwater. What you can do is you can purchase the home subject to. So you basically get the keys and you just take over the payments. A lot of the sellers' alternative is very ugly. And what I mean by that is that they can't actually sell that home. They have to bring money to the table, or they're going to get a giant 1098 from the bank and have to pay taxes on it. And either way, this is the South, so people don't have a lot of money in the South. So what you do is you just come in and you take over the payments. Anyone who's in a distressed property, like for example, maybe they lost their job and they have distress in their life. Or maybe, you know, somebody passed away in the family and now they went from 2 income to 1 income. So you can go and purchase some of these properties. If you have any questions, just drop me a line. But now I want to talk about home equity lines of credit because, of course, people are taking those out, okay? And there is an article here that talks about what is the cost of a home equity line of credit. And I do find it interesting. And the example that they use is a $40,000 home equity line of credit. Now, if you don't know what that means, that means that if you have equity in your home, like if you owe less than it's worth, then you can actually take a bank loan against that difference, and it's not like a fixed rate payment over 30 years. So what does that really look like, and what are the rates? That's really what people want to know. So here's what it looks like. If you're going to go and take a home equity line of credit and borrow against some of the equity that you have in your home, then you're going to be paying about a 9.89% interest rate. And that is a fluctuating rate, by the way. It does change all the time. So you can't rely on that low rate. But if you were to go refinance your first mortgage and pull some cash out, you're probably going to be at about 7.5 to 7.75% rate, which seems like it's a better deal, but it's not. It's a much worse deal. So go for the HELOC, okay? However, let me give you a good warning. Home equity lines of credit are not the problem. Although I do think that they do cause problems for people, but they're not the problem. The real problem is you. You are the problem. You don't have the discipline, you don't have the training, and you don't have the fortitude to say no to yourself. You have this problem with just saying yes and putting everything on a credit card. And the explanation is always, well, I'll make the money next week and I'll pay it back. But then you don't, which is how people get at $25,000, $35,000, $50,000 in debt with credit cards. So really, you need to fix your habits. And that's why getting a home equity line of credit to pay off your credit card debt seems like a good idea, but it's a horrible idea because it doesn't solve any of the underlying habits that you have that are causing you these problems in the first place. But let's just say, magically, you snapped your finger and boom, you have discipline, you have accountability, and you have someone that's going to help you through this process. Well, great. Then it can be a great idea to take out a home equity line of credit and pay off your high interest debt. You just can't use your debt anymore. You can't use those credit cards until you've paid everything off. But here's what the numbers look like. Basically, a $25,000 balance on your credit cards is going to cost you about $500 to $600 a month because you're paying like 21 up to 29% on that debt. And that's per year. But on a HELOC, you're going to be paying, under 10%. So your payment on borrowing that $25,000 is probably going to be about $250 a month. So you're saving minimum, 50% of your payment right off the bat. But if you just stay disciplined and you take the full amount of payment that you're usually making and then paying that amount on the HELOC, so the $500 to $600, then you're actually going to be able to get out of this problem. You're going to be able to catch up. But I have an idea for all the banks out there issuing home equity lines of credit. In order for people not to default on those HELOCs, the real good idea would be to create a HELOC with a slightly lower interest rate if they sign up for the accountability program. You can even charge for this accountability program directly to be paid from the HELOC. And this accountability program would be a monthly breakdown and a phone call of all the debts that you said you were going to pay off. And then the rep calls you and they say, hey, you said you were going to do this. Did you do this? Yes, no. What are you going to do next month? Here's what I'm going to do. They log it all. And then 15 minutes later, you get an email with a report of what you did, how far you've gotten, and what you promised you're going to do. And then you get another call the month after that. So home equity lines of credit seem to be like a really good idea, but really the discipline of spending money is the problem, not the way that people use home equity lines of credit. Is the way people manage their money in the first place. And we have one more topic, which are commercial loans, because I talked to my lender extensively today, and we were talking about commercial loans. Now, I've already made a video just a couple days ago how commercial properties are going to go through turmoil. There's going to be a lot of problems due to the loans, but I did not know how many there actually are. It is staggering how many loans are out there, and most of the commercial loans out there take 5-year balloon payments. So that means after 5 years, they have to come up with the whole amount that they owe or refinance, which is what like everybody does. Now, these people who took these loans out are stuck in a really bad position if nothing changes in the next 2 years. First of all, they're going to be stuck with a interest rate that is way higher than it is right now. And the problem is that they're not going to get approved for the loan. That's the real problem. Getting the loan is one thing. Now, paying for it is quite another. But if you can't show on paper at the very least that you can pay back that loan, then you're probably not even going to get it in the first place. When multifamily rents are going down, when offices have vacancies, when companies are shutting down offices because people are going to work from home and then they're not paying the rent anymore, the owners of that land are the ones who suffer, and they have a mortgage that's coming due. There are so many properties that are 2 years or less out. Do you think we're going to have major rate cuts within the next 2 years? Because that's what can save them. But I don't think we're going to do it. I don't think that whatever presidency is going to be in power are going to actually lower the interest rates so low where most of the commercial people are going to be able to refinance and secure themselves for an additional 5 years. I feel for all the commercial investors out there. Residential is suffering too, don't get me wrong. And if you're thinking about getting into investing into commercial real estate, this actually might be a pretty decent time. Let me tell you what I'm thinking here. If you can actually get approved with today's 8.5%, 9% interest rates for commercial loans, and the property that you find cash flows and the bank likes it, try to get a 10-year balloon just to be on the safe side, and then purchase that property, because within 10 years, I'm very confident that we're going to have our rates fall. At that point in time, you're going to be able to refinance out. But that's only because of today's rates, being just a little under 10% for commercial loans. And the probability of us increasing rates is still here. So it could get worse before it gets better. But within 10 years, we will probably be at lower rates than we are right now. So you're going to be in a position at some point in time in the first 10 years where you're going to be able to refinance out.